reimbursement because they paid us incorrectly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Ramswell?
Thank you, Mayor. I had a question along similar lines, and maybe Mr. Farmer can shed some light on it. When we receive payments like that, is it standard to go back and sort of fact check is probably the wrong terminology, but is there some sort of system of checks and balances to go back and sort of determine whether that is something we expected, we didn't expect?
Well, in this case, the payment was sent in error. They recognized the error. They asked for the money back. With these hurricanes, you know, the problem is the United States hasn't been hit with a major hurricane in how many years? Okay. These folks at FEMA they go back and they take the hurricane reimbursement from prior years, and they basically do a mini audit of it. And then they come back, like Ms. Trammell said, and they say, hey, we shouldn't have paid you this $2 million for this hurricane. Pay us back. And now you've got to go and dig records out that in some cases may be 6, 8, 10 years old and try to justify why your reimbursement was made. It's very hard to do. You have employees that no longer work for the city who may have managed that process. And so this is just a culmination of, we haven't had a lot of events, so this is the busy work that they're doing, and they're coming back to cities exactly the way Councilwoman Trammell said, and trying to get funds paid back to them. And it's very cumbersome to a city who may have had an event 10 years ago to come up with $1 million. We're just lucky in this case that they made a payment in error last year, and they immediately caught it, and we just send it back to them. So this is not an uncommon thing.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ramswell. Mr. Wood?
I guess I want to ask a follow-up on that. I'm just trying to think back to my previous life and some things that I did. If we have a hurricane and we request some reimbursable expenses, I would assume we would keep a list of those things. And then if we got overpaid, subsequently, we should know right away we got overpaid by comparing those two. So how long did we have that check in our possession before FEMA said, oops, we overpaid you?
We just got it last year.
Well, we got an early part of 14. So,
Okay.
Linda, you want to explain this? You're the administrator of these FEMA funds.
I don't even know where to start when it comes to FEMA. We have dealt with so many hurricanes since 2005. And what people don't realize is the storm passes, but the city, we are still dealing with costs from Hurricane Ivan, Hurricane Gustav, which was this one, Hurricane Isaac, Hurricane Elaine. We have all kinds of disasters that stay open for years and years and years because FEMA's personnel changes constantly. The state of Florida's personnel changes constantly. When we have a disaster, we prepare project worksheets. We document to FEMA all of the costs to repair, rebuild, and we keep those very well documented and together for years, and we show them and prove to them that we spent that money for exactly what we said we would spend it for to repair whatever it is we repair. And we keep those records. And in this case, in Hurricane Gustav, the state, the FEMA gave us money for sand to rebuild some berms. That was prior to the Holiday Isle restoration project. There was absolutely no beach to build berms on. So we said, can we add that to our project when we do it? So here the money is allocated in 2008. We wait until 2012 to actually use it because that's when we build the project. And what FEMA agreed to pay for was the same amount of sand that was lost from that storm, so that the city and the TDD didn't have to pay for that sand. So we gave to FEMA, as it says in 2010, we showed them our final amount for the amount of sand that they approved. Now, they just estimated to begin with that they were going to use $111,000 for sand. We showed them that it actually cost $89,988.49. We got our checks from the state then, finally in 2013, that paid us back for that. We went to FEMA and the state and said, okay, we have our money, you can close us out. I signed all of the closing documentation. We were done. I put Gustav aside. A year and a half later, the state transfers funds into our city banking account. I don't even know it's gone in there. It's the state that, we didn't spend $111,000, but that's what the project worksheet had initially been made for. And so the state paid us the difference. Well, we didn't ask for that difference, but they paid us anyway. And that's what, then a year later they said, whoops, we shouldn't have paid you that. We want it back. So that's what we're doing. We're giving them that money back. But we never asked for it in the first place, and it was their mistake to send it. And this just happens with FEMA and the state when there are so many different disasters and so many different people second-guessing what was done 6 years ago.
Thank you, Ms. Chabot. Mr. Dixon, do you have another?
Yeah, mine's real quick. I know from working with disasters, previous disasters, that the state or the FEMA will pay 75%. The state pays up to 25% of the remaining. A lot of times you'll get 12.5%. That's what you get most of the time. So I can see where if you got another 12.5%, you would just think, okay, the state paid us the full 25%. So I think that's probably what I would have thought if we had gotten a check like that. Turns out it's not that way. So we owe it. We got to pay it back.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dixon. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Ms. Trammell, seconded by Mr. Wood, to reimburse FEMA for overpaid funds as a result for Hurricane Gustav. Let's call for the vote. They're voting away. That passes unanimously. Okay, next item.
Mayor Severs, would you wait just a minute? We're going to have to change a tape. Didn't want to do that when other people are making comments. Just
okay.
about 30 seconds.
Okay. Is it back there now? Oh, there you go. Got all kinds of new gadgets.
That's what happens when you miss it.
Yeah. 2 hours, 2 years. Oh. No.
Done 20, so now I got 21.
Did you get me a water? Got it. Okay. We are back in business. Mr. Casella, city manager comment.
Yeah, just quickly, we've got the quarterly newsletter going out on January 30th in the edition of the Destin Log, so just give everybody a heads up for that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. I was going to give Ms. Cheryl St. Pay an opportunity to speak, but I don't see her anywhere.
I think she was satisfied with the outcome of the...
Is she?
Yeah.
Okay. Comments from the audience? Anyone wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.